and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Malaysia is committed to a major shift towards electric vehicles to decarbonize our transport sector and achieve our ambitious net zero emissions goal by 2050. Now, the target is to have electrified vehicles, both EVs and hybrids, to make up 15% of total industry volume by 2030 and more than doubling that by 2040 to 38%. Now, joining us, however, I think in the meantime, substantial investments are essential to ensure that these ambitious targets are met. Joining us now to discuss the crucial questions surrounding supply, demand and infrastructure of the EV industry, we have Dato Chuah, who is president of the Electric Vehicle Association of Malaysia. He's also the founder and executive director of ICLIMO, which produces electric motorcycles. Dato Dennis, thank you for joining me on the show. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Is that correct? ICLIMO is the name of your electric motorbike company. Is that right?
Yes. Hi, Melissa. Thank you for the opportunity. You got it right. ICLIMO. ICLIMO stands for Eco Life Mobility. So well done.
Okay, all right. So I'm hoping we can begin our conversation with you maybe describing your assessment of the current state of the electric vehicle industry in Malaysia. Give us an overview.
Well, right now you can see that especially on the four-wheelers, electric vehicles, it's involved commercial vehicle, involved with wheels and without wheels, like even boats or vessels. And so we can see that the adoptions of electric four wheels, electric passenger cars have been increased tremendously. Consider 10, 12 years ago, where Malaysia encouraged to drive hybrids. Hybrids have gone a long way from 12 years ago until today. And today, Malaysia or over the world globally are promoting electric, full BEV, battery electric vehicle. So within these 2 years, we can see that the adoptions of the electric vehicles have increased tremendous. But just to give you a numbers, total we have about 10,000 units on the road right now for four wheels. But of course, the going forward, the four wheels adoptions, the interests are there, but not to forget the two wheels. Two wheels still have a bit of difficulty, but of course we will also want to be able to see that from two wheels of combustions to convert to electric. So that is the directions that we should adopt.
Dennis, what are the difficulties that two-wheeler producers, electric two-wheeler producers like ICLIMO faces? I'm wondering where the differences are within the market. Why is it these two market segments are not growing at the same rate?
You see, for four wheels, there are quite a number of manufacturers are already in four wheels. They are from US, Europe, from China, manufacture electric four wheels. But when you come to two wheels, in order for two wheels to grow, if you look at the normal combustion bikes, you can able to access anywhere. You can actually purchase the bike. Even when you purchase the bike, you can get financing to finance the bike installment of easily from 12 months to probably 60 months, depending on the price of the vehicle. And when you require service support, every 1 kilometer, you can find many workshops that can able to support the two-wheelers, right? So, but in terms of, if you're talking about two-wheelers, electric two-wheelers, first thing is our user already used to the combustion's performance. So the two wheels have to catch up on the technology and also the performance of the bike comparable to a combustions. And whether you can able to provide support like the existing combustions, you can buy spare parts anytime. When the bike break down, you got the spare parts, you got a mechanic to support. Where this infrastructure have yet to establish, and another issues is the charging infrastructure. Electric four wheels, right now you can see there are thousands, almost 1,003 EV chargers installed. But for two wheels, it's a bit hard because the charging protocol have not established globally. So people who use two-wheelers, normally they stay in multi-story apartments or flats, whereby it's not easy for them to access to a charging point. So, so from the financing to purchasing of the vehicle to the choice of people to choose what type of electric two-wheelers, and to supporting the maintenance and also the charging infra, these have not been developed smoothly. So I would say that two-wheel still have rooms to grow.
Do you think that a lot of the focus, I mean, we've heard in budget 2023, the revised one at the start of the year, there were plenty of tax incentives and tax breaks to encourage the adoption of electric vehicles. Can I ask you whether the same type of support and policies have been extended to the electric two-wheel market segment?
Well, I would say that in general, our government have been very, very friendly on the electric vehicle policy. You have a CBU unit, which is exempted from import duty. You have exemption from excise duty, even in it falls into four wheels and two wheels. And two wheels, hopefully this budget that what MITI have proposed to be able to get the subsidies for a buyer to purchase electric two-wheelers, you were able to get subsidies. Bear in mind that our country, Malaysia, our petrol price are still subsidized. These are the hurdles because it's quite affordable. So for people who change from combustions to electric, they no longer enjoy the subsidized petrol. So these are one of the encouragement whereby if we able to get the budget approved, the coming budget, that would definitely be encouraged because we already have the excise duty exemption and also the import duty exemptions. If you are a local assembler or local manufacturers, yes, they will carry on until 2027 instead of 2025 for the CBU unit. So we encourage local assembly. And on top of that, we keep our finger crossed that we will be able to get the budget approved for the subsidies for the two-wheelers.
So when we think about charging infrastructure, which is one of, I think, the many pain points when it comes to, or many hurdles when it comes to, mass EV adoption in Malaysia, when we think about the interoperability of charging stations, how would that look like in the future? Is there a possibility where you have electric four-wheel and electric two-wheel charging at the same stations? And who would drive that standardization?
At this moment for two-wheelers, there is no standard protocol. The only standard protocol falls into the four-wheelers and also the commercial, which is we call it as AC Type 2 or CCS Type 2. We can able to use the same protocol, but whether the bike using a smaller motor, smaller battery, is it suitable for the same protocol? But on top of that, you do not want the two-wheelers user to hop the four-wheelers car park to charge the bike. I think that is right. That is not a good equation, or that's not a good suggestion. But we still need to establish the charging infrastructure for the two-wheelers because using the four-wheelers. I think they doesn't able to want the car coming in and you saw the bike is using the station to charge the bike. I'm sure that doesn't work very well. So when you come to two-wheelers, that we still lack of companies or industries to very much focus into the technology and also expanding the supply chain. When you come to two-wheelers, I think you never heard of that there are companies are very much focusing into the technology, whereby we need the two-wheelers to be able to charge 10 minutes or even 1 hour. Today, either you do swapping, you can swap within 2 or 3 minutes, but there is also a pro and cons. Non-swapping charging time is long. It can be 1 hour or 4 hours. So two-wheelers growth or technology is still a lot more to improve.
When you say swapping, Dennis, you mean as in changing the battery packs, is that correct?
Yes, today you can see many companies are promoting swapping method. There is a Taiwan company that very successful. Their technology is on the swapping. They install battery stations all over the city, and users just purchase the vehicle without the battery. They just subscribe to be a subscriber. To whenever they see that the battery is low, they can go to the station to swap it. So these are one of the very successful companies in Taiwan. They are doing it. But in terms of, we also have to see that in ASEAN countries or Malaysia, where people travel quite a bit, it can be 100 kilometers a day or it can be 150 kilometers a day. So how many times that do you need to swap the battery? How many stations that you need to lay your infrastructure? There is an investment to put in, and how long there will be a return. These are the even some of the ministry or agencies are doing the study right now whether our country is suitable for swapping or non-swapping. But both technology have pros and cons. I would say that this is up to the user, how they use the vehicle, what is the expectation, and they choose to their own interests. Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. So you are president of the Electric Vehicle Association of Malaysia. So looking at the industry as a whole, Dennis, can I ask you what you would like to see in the immediate term? So we're looking ahead to budget 2024 at the end of the week. What would you like to see in the immediate term to encourage more adoption of electric vehicles in this market?
Well, as I say that the subsidies were definitely one of the main interests for me, because that will definitely immediately increase more interest on purchasing the electric vehicle. But we need to also push the industry to be involved into the development of the parts, or to go into the research of the battery or the charging capabilities. So to encourage the industry where the future of the vehicle it's in demand, where we need more industry to come in and to be involved and participate into building up the ecosystem. And especially for the association, we are very, very close with the ASEAN Association. We have been working very, very closely with Thailand associations, Philippines, Singapore, Indonesia, to be able to build our policy throughout the whole ASEAN countries for the two-wheelers and also the three-wheelers. Of course, in Philippines and Indonesia, Thailand, they do have three-wheelers on the road. Not Malaysia. We don't have a policy for three-wheelers. But well, I think this is the association where I'm working very closely to implement the policy and also build. I would say that we wanted to build our make in ASEAN two-wheelers. This is our role and our objective right now, to work with the ASEAN associations to build our own local industry.
Thank you so much for speaking with me, Dato Dennis Chuah, President of the Electric Vehicle Association of Malaysia there. We're going to take a quick break here on Consider This. We will be back with more. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris. Let's continue our conversation about Malaysia's efforts to shift towards electric vehicles. Joining us now is Subhash Nair. He's a deputy editor of the auto industry news site DSF.my, which stands for Drive Safe and Fast. Subhash is also the host of the YouTube channel Auto Files Malaysia. Subhash, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I'm just wondering, when you look at other countries and the countries that have adopted electric vehicles successfully, what are the early indicators that hint that there's going to be a potential for a massive shift towards electromobility? And I'm wondering whether you see those same types of indicators here in the Malaysian market.
Hi, Melisa. So it's a little bit difficult to see when that transition will start to happen, because in the most successful countries, we still see only about a 20% TIV. So of the entire market, you only see about 20% of new cars being electric, and that is as successful as it gets. So when we start to see this happen is when we start to see governments putting a lot of money into incentivizing electric vehicles over petrol cars. And in Malaysia, the current stance is a bit different. It's more like the government is not taxing electric vehicles as heavily as petrol and diesel cars. So the price kind of comes down, but on the tax rebate side and all that, it's more of like, tax rebates for chargers and things like that. So it's not as heavy in Malaysia as it is in some other countries, but it's still pretty substantial considering what the government is willing to let go. So yeah, right. It's still hard to say. Yeah.
So you mentioned cost there, and of course we have to look at the issue of affordability. I mean, electric vehicles in Malaysia currently are only affordable to a certain segment of the market. They're not accessible to most consumers. How would you address the affordability concerns? How do you think the government should address the affordability concerns of electric vehicles if what they want is to achieve mass adoption of EVs?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question because when we look at the current policy, it's difficult to see what the goal of the government is, because they might say they want mass adoption, but what exactly is their percentage of TIV that they're targeting? Currently, we sell, 1,000, 2,000 EVs per year. It might go up this year because of Tesla coming in, but we also sell about 600, 700,000 cars overall. So 2,000, 3,000 cars out of 700,000 is a tiny fraction. So what can the government do? They can, unfortunately, the reality is the fuel subsidies have to start coming down a bit, because when the Malaysian market sees the true cost of fuel, of RON 95 and all that, then we can start to see a push towards regular Joes taking electric instead of petrol. And then the overall cost of ownership will come down, because the reality is EVs are expensive. Even if the government puts a lot of money into incentivizing buying an EV, the battery pack cost alone is something like 30 to 40% of the cost of production of the vehicle. So car brands don't want to be selling at a loss. They won't do that. And the government doesn't want to pay you to buy a car, because that also doesn't make sense. So right. The easiest mechanism is just to bring the fuel subsidies down, and that is a politically disastrous move, I think, for any.
Right. I mean, you're absolutely right to point to the counterproductive policy of fuel subsidies, but also that this is a very incentive-driven industry at the moment. Can we talk a little bit about what would drive demand then? There's a lot of discussion about range anxiety when it comes to electric vehicles, especially given the still nascent charging infrastructure in the country. How would, to spur this industry, how would the government have to convince users that range anxiety is something that can be addressed?
So I've actually had a couple of experiences driving electric vehicles cross-country. KL to Johor is my preferred destination route, So we currently have about 1,300 public charging stations. The government's goal for the end of this year is 4,000. So I don't think we're going to make it to 4,000 in the next couple of months. It's a little bit difficult to navigate the ecosystem currently, because when you look at the charging system, the charging infrastructure, there are 3 or 4 different operators, and that requires 3 or 4 different apps, and signing into all 3, 4 different apps under their own membership thing, signing into your credit card to that app. So you can see a lot of friction to getting into each of these charging systems. So it's like, if you go to a petrol station, you don't really worry if you have like a bonus link card or Petron Smiles card or any petrol station specific bonus card to use that petrol station. You just go in, you pay for the petrol, 5 minutes you're out. Whereas with EV charging, you have to have the app, you have to sign in, you have to do all these things, and then only you have access to that network. So I think the government has to use either one of their GLCs, either Petronas with their Settle app or TNB with whatever app they can develop, to park all of these EV chargers under one umbrella. So if you have an electric vehicle, you download one app, you have access to all the EV chargers. You can see clearly where they are along the road, where you can charge and all that, without having to go through 3 or 4 different apps and pay through 3 or 4 different things. I think that is the easiest step that government can do. The second thing is, just incentivize more EV operators to come in and park themselves under this one app, because right now there's just too few of them operating.
Okay, so you brought up the fact that there's a lack of interoperability within the charging ecosystem. There's the cost issue and the petrol subsidies that are counterintuitive to wanting to push for EV adoption. What else do you think is keeping people from wanting to make that push? I'm wondering whether consumers think of the shift to electromobility as from internal combustion engine to hybrid first to a fully battery-fied electric vehicle. Is that the natural progression of things, and how do we ensure that there is progression along the way?
Yeah, so one of the barriers that I think people don't really talk about is how do Malaysian condominium dwellers deal with charging? Because I live in a condo, and a lot of people do live in condos in the Klang Valley. And a lot of these condos are not set up to have you install home chargers. Some of the newer ones are. So how do I charge my EV if I buy one right now? They may be coming down in price, but I'm stuck. I can't charge it at home. I got to go to a fuel station or wherever it is just to charge my car, which is silly, I think. So having the government pushing some legislation to help condo management sort of force through EV charging, home charging for condo users, that would be very, very helpful. That's one barrier for regular Joes to kind of adopt it. The other thing about transitioning stage by stage from ICE to hybrid to maybe plug-in hybrid and then EV, I don't think that's necessary, because we don't see that transition very necessary in China and in the US. Yes, hybrid options have existed, but a lot of customers are willing to go from ICE to EV without going through all those middle steps. Realistically, if you're in a country like Malaysia and there's no infrastructure set up, or not enough infrastructure set up, and all these other hurdles in the way, then a hybrid is a very nice middle ground. But plug-in hybrid is where you start to get sort of the diminishing returns, I think, because you get a lot more complexity in the system. And then you have this option to charge your car, which a lot of plug-in hybrid vehicle owners over the last 6-7 years, which we've had in Malaysia, a lot of them don't charge their car at night, because like, why would you if you can just fuel up? Fueling up takes like five minutes at the most, but charging up takes 5-6 hours, and you only get 100 kilometers of range. It doesn't really always make sense.
Okay, so the target for total industry volume that the government wants to see by 2030, in 7 years, they want to reach 15%. In 17 years, they want to reach 38%. I mean, this is both hybrid and electric vehicles. But what do you think really needs to be fixed, to be sorted out in those 7 years, if the government really is, committed to decarbonizing the transport sector?
This is a big, maybe politically charged question, because I think it also involves a lot of what TNB is prepared to do, because they came up with a big plan to move away from coal and natural gas, I think by 2050, which is a very this is some other CEO's problem kind of way of coming up with a strategy. So I think that's one thing that really has to change. I think the government, if they really want to decarbonize, then our energy itself has to come from cleaner source. And we have some private entities, more sustainable sources of energy, and pumping that into the grid. Then I think that would really change a lot of things when it comes to decarbonizing the entire system. I think pushing this responsibility towards the supply side and not to the consumers, like it's not really up to people like you and me to buy these EVs and go greener. It really is the production side and the energy generation side that produces the most carbon. So it really is a government problem and a policy problem on that side of the equation. Because even when you move to our side, the consumer side, EVs have other polluting aspects to them, like tire pollution is a big one. EVs are generally much heavier than internal combustion engine cars, and tire pollution is one aspect that people don't really talk about, but there's evidence. Even The Guardian has written up some articles about how it's even more polluting than exhaust pollution. So when you have a heavier car, more developed countries, yes, they'll take these batteries back and put them back as sort of power banks for the grid. So we have peak power pricing and we have low energy pricing. So when the grid needs more power, the price goes up. So what they do is they store a lot of this power in older electric vehicle batteries. Yes, correct. So if we can have like a peak power system with TNB, then I think Malaysians will feel that importance of using energy at certain times less, and that's So shifting that in that direction would be very important.
So still a lot to do in the next few years. Subhash, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Subhash Nair from the auto industry news site DSF.my. Thank you so much for being on the show. That wraps up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching and good night.